Welcome back to part 3 of episode 1. This time we will be covering the Central Arkansas Bears. And Dad, this team's really young. A lot of potential with this team. I'll say this before we get into their starting 5. So I'm very excited for what this move to the A-Sun is going to bring to us. I think it's going to bring a lot of opportunity to get a lot closer to a lot of these teams. Actually talk to a lot of the staff and hopefully some of the players. That's the goal. It's really hard to find information, typically, from an A-Sun team before media day in the media weeks. And a lot of these teams haven't posted any of that stuff. It's very difficult. You really got to do your job as a reporter, as a researcher, to find good information on these teams. John Schulman, in the media, I watched a 30-minute media video about them that released on Thursday. I already love him, but I also hate him because he is so transparent with his thoughts about his players, and he was so open at the media day, but he gave me 30 minutes of just so much information that I had to take a break from my researching after listening to his video because he uploaded me with so much information. I had to take a walk with my dogs just to make sure that I processed what he was telling me. And he's awesome. I love what he's gonna build for this Central Arkansas team. Let's get into their starting 5 now. So we got 3 new guys that are gonna be, I believe, in this starting 5. Braden Fagbemi, who comes from John Hopkins, which is a very popular school back where we're from, as far as lacrosse goes. But that's Division III for basketball. He did win the Rookie of the Year, the Freshman of the Year for the conference John Hopkins is in. And he was on their first team, the first team for that conference as well. Then you got 2 freshmen, Lane Taylor and Ty Robinson. They were, as John Schulman said, the 1-2 recruits in Arkansas. Taylor being the highest ever rated freshman that Central Arkansas has recruited, and Ty Robinson being the 3rd highest, both coming from Arkansas. They both actually played with each other a little bit, not in high school, but outside of high school for basketball. And they, as John Schulman said, he had half the state telling him Lane Taylor was number 1 in the country, and half the state telling him that Ty Robinson was number 1 in the country. Both great shooters. Lane Taylor, obviously, you can see there, he played more of the point by that 6 assists per game in high school, but he's probably going to be, or it was confirmed at that conference that he would be playing with Braden Fagbemi, who played himself kind of into that starting lineup. Then you got Elias Cato, the only senior on this team, and one of the few returning guys from this team. And then you'll also have Gloria Tim, who was one of the better rebounders last year in the conference. Pretty good shot blocker as well. So those are the guys. Now, about Tim, he was one of those guys. Well, actually, the returning guys here, Cato and Tim, I want to talk about real quick, is that it seems like Schulman's trying to move along from what was before to what is now, because both of these guys, he sounded like he was happy with what they can do and what they have already done, but he seemed to be more focused on the future. So that worries me as far as where their place in the lineup comes towards the end of the year. And also, he said Cato just hasn't been stepping up as a leader. He said it's been a struggle to get Cato to embrace the leadership role. He was more of a follower last year. So that brings in a lot of question marks as far as leadership goes. Team's the youngest team in the conference, Dad. 8 freshmen on the team. What do you think about them?
Yeah, I think they're dangerous because I think Schulman's got that energy like you talked about, and they got a lot of new players with a blank slate, right? So there's an opportunity for everybody to make their way. And there's other teams in the conference that are going to be similar in that regard, but I think there's a chance for this team to gel and really grow and exceed what maybe at a preseason level you might look on paper and go, oh, wow, it's kind of a team in its first year, figuring stuff out. One senior, like, where are they going? Freshmen, we don't know what they're going to be, even though they may be good on paper. But I think there's some potential for this team to really take off. They start. Who are they? They're starting with BYU and Utah. Their first two games out in Utah the first week of the year. So, that'll test their mettle right away, right then, right, to see what they're made of, how gutty they're going to be, to see how they can compete with those two teams, or if they collapse or whatever it might be.
Absolutely. Well, actually, story about that. Shulman said in that press conference. He asked Lane and Ty, he was like, hey, we can play Team A or we can play BYU. What team do you want to play? And they're like, we're here to play BYU. Give us BYU. We want to play. Right. So that speaks a lot about the grit and the determination of the guys that Shulman seemed to have brought in.
The confidence there, exactly. And obviously, those two both from being from Arkansas didn't go to University of Arkansas with Coach Cal. Maybe they weren't recruited. I don't know exactly, but fully. But the fact that they ended up at UCA tells you something there about they want to bring it home for their home state too. So
absolutely. And one side note as well, a guy that isn't in the starting five that probably would have been had he been eligible. That's Javion Guy King. He's ineligible. That was confirmed by Shulman on Thursday that he won't be able to be in the lineup. And I think another guy that might work his way into this starting five that actually did get some first team looks was DJ Sasias from Mountain West. He played the 5 last year, was really excited about playing the 5. Shulman said he gained 20 pounds so that way he could. But then now he wants to come back and play the 3. And Shulman told him that he needs to drop weight in order to do it, which he has been doing. Another guy that can contribute is Nehemiah Turner, but I expect that to be later in the season. He's another freshman that was recruited. He just needs to drop weight as well. He's 6'10", 265 pounds is what he's listed as. And he said there's sometimes, I don't remember the second name he said, but he said sometimes Nehemiah looks like Magic Johnson, and sometimes he's like, you ever heard of Billy Johnson before?
Billy Johnson? No, I don't know that
No,
one.
I haven't either, but sometimes he looks like Billy Johnson. So he said he's not completely sold on Turner yet, but he said once he cuts weight, he's going to be a force to be reckoned with. So this team's got a lot, and there's some guys that we didn't even mention. Ben Fox last year didn't play for the team. He's one of the returners Shulman's high on. He said the only person that thinks that Ben Fox can't play sometimes is Ben Fox. Everyone else thinks that he can play. So he said he's confidence away from being a really good player. So
I was going to mention Tyler Lee as well, a freshman coming in. Unfortunately, hurt his knee. There was no timetable for his return that you saw. The note I had said, unfortunately, but hopefully he's able to come back. 6'5", won 2 state championships, won two MVP awards in their state tournament. So there's some talent there, obviously, built up in him. So hopefully he's able to make it back and contribute this season.
Yeah, and Cole McCormick as well was another guy that he was high up. Actually, Shulman said he was convinced he was going to go to Lipscomb, and then he ended up coming to UCA. So he was really excited about that. He said he's a funny guy too. He seems like a gel guy for the locker room, and he said that he's a role player. He knows his role and he works really hard. So those are the type of guys that you want to bring in. This freshman class is dangerous, as you said, and it's going to be a growing pains year, I think. But I think it's going to be a very successful growing pains year. Where do you have this team, Dad?
Yep, I got them slotted as 8. Again, I think there's going to be enough gel for them to come together. They're going to beat up on a few teams. They're going to have a couple surprise upset wins. Maybe Lipscomb will be a team that they could throw at. With you mentioned them a little bit ago. Have a surprise win, something like that at home. Again, I'm looking forward to seeing those 2 first games next week and seeing where that kind of lines them up. But yeah, I got them 8th overall of the 12 teams. How about yourself?
Well, I originally had them at 10, and I don't have them there anymore, and that's because after the research I did on another team, I think in somewhat of a similar situation, have more leadership on the team than them, but I'm dropping them below. But I got them at 9 UCA, but I could see this team being anywhere from 6 to 10 basically. But I'm gonna hard cap for the predictions. I'm gonna go at 9.
Right, gotcha. Yeah, I can see them winning maybe a game by 20. I could see them losing a game by 30 maybe as well, as they kind of find their way through here. I'm not talking about those first 2 games, but even in conference, they're probably see some high swings, high and low on them.
Absolutely.
As they get moving. So
well, and Schulman said half the team's hurt right now, as well as what Schulman was saying. So he's been working them hard. Clearly, the team's run into the ground a little bit. They're probably going to struggle in this first opening part of the season, which isn't A-Sun conference play. But so I have a feeling once this team rounds out to A-Sun conference play, they're going to be competitive each night. Just don't know how many games they'll actually win, but they're going to be a force to be reckoned with in the future if they can keep all these good freshmen from going into the transfer portal.
Great.
So we're going to move on to another team in the next episode. Be sure to click on that and watch that. Until then, have a great time. Take care.